hospital. Did you bring your laptop?
I did.
Did you ever?
No, I didn't.
Did you ever download these?
No, I didn't. I don't.
Want me to download it for you?
See?
So it's the CRC answers, the grammar book, the grammar answers, the spelling book.
Oh, I know where to find that though. I figured that out today. Well, I knew where to find it in the thing, but now it's like, oh, there's a book.
Do you know where the ELB book is at? Did you find it yet?
I don't know. It's all under. Our book is the most boring one. Like the friggin' polar bear. We got giraffe and all these books are freaking polar bear.
Have you
Like
found
an astronaut.
Have you found the selection here?
Driving today.
We're only doing the wiki assessments. We're not doing the comprehension because we didn't want to like fill them with everything. So we didn't do that. We didn't do the selection. We decided not to because we didn't focus on the standard and what aspect was on the standard, not the story. Yeah. Every fucking week, dude. I get to do some writing, but like I get used to it. That's about how they do. Half are doing good. Horrible. Well, since we do a lot of class work and they do both credits, it's awesome because they do it.
Did everybody sign in?
And like they
Y'all signed in? Y'all got a little this and that over there? Good.
We're doing the selection test.
I'm a little anxious to see how this is going to work. Yeah. 50 people signed in.
because I gave them one of those just to see what they
The man with the commute.
They did work on the
The man with the commute.
but they did on the
To walk across the
Well, I
compound.
gave them the
You went and signed in and grabbed a little this and that?
first day. The first day, like the
Sorry,
first
there's no
week,
pizza
we
beer.
were assessing.
Crackers is best I can do. I want to keep my job.
we've been doing it together, like we'll read it to them, we'll read them the question, we'll read them what it's asking to do, and then they their answer. So I want that they're not going to tell us about it.
Let me see. I know,
When I had to
you know what, I know Josh Grossman's not going to be here. He got a car transition from the last one.
But this was like, let's guide them the first, like,
yeah,
few. I was home in Vegas right now.
All right, so isn't it ironic that teachers who are constantly marking tardies are late?
Yeah.
We started at 4:30 to give you all plenty of time to get here.
I got here on time.
That's when you get out at 3:45.
3:45?
We don't start till 8:45.
So it's like,
Cigarette.
but still, 45 minutes, yeah, it's just like, but you got here.
Mondays we go.
There you go.
I just have to leave pretty early.
Did you already turn in your paper? Oh, you're supposed to turn in the 100% early? Friday? Friday. But you have to have the interview done by Friday. I get the meeting by Friday. I think so. That's coming.
All right, well, welcome to
Because I'm going to give you
Tools for teaching by Fred Jones. And we're going to, it's a big crowd. If you read or go to their training of trainers, they'll tell you that the best size of a group is somewhere between 7 and 12. And normally we've had about 30 people come to our Fred Jones training, and so y'all have set a record, and I'm really pleased. And I have administrators in my district calling me saying, "Can I get so-and-so in?" I'm like, "No, it's full." And well, can you have 2? No. If you knew my schedule, you would understand. So, welcome. Let me ask a favor. Even if you have to drive in a hurry from Minarets, I know that y'all are tired when you get here, and it's been a long day, but I want to try to start on time so we can end on time. So my dad always told me that 10 minutes early is 5 minutes late. So because there's so many of us, it would be real helpful when we meet next month if you could get here a few minutes early. Make sure, and I'm preaching to the choir because you're all here, right? But remind the people that are coming in, we said make sure you're on time, so we can end on time. We have a lot going on. Please sign in and grab a little bit of everything. We are filming the series for the first time, and so if there is a conflict and you're unable to come, then we'll allow you to come. I want you still to come here though, and to do the makeup, and we'll give you some questions to go over. You can do that once if you're looking for the credit from University of San Diego. Okay? The University of San Diego, in partnership with us, has allowed us to go ahead and sign in and grab one of those to offer 3 units for the class. And so, while I don't know how many of you are motivated by that, some of you certainly are. And so we have 10 sessions. There is an hour requirement in order to get those 3 units. I think it's 45 hours. And so we're going to spend 15 hours in class, and there will be another 15 hours of you actually working through your lab, and then another 15 hours of actually kind of playing with some data and doing some write-ups and homework, which you will submit to us at the end of the year. We ordered binders for everybody. Hi, come on in, guys. Please sign in and grab one of everything. We ordered binders for you. Oh, and I forgot to hole punch all this for you. So hole punch it and come back next time, and we're going to give you the binders. We had half. We had 25 binders, and then ordered more, and they were on back order. And so Jessica's going to finish putting those together this week, so you'll have a binder to turn in at the end of our session. Don't get that confused with induction or with our pre-credentialing program. Hey guys, go ahead and sign in and grab a little everything. In that we don't have binders for our other programs to turn in. This is the only one. We are not using Google Classroom for this. And part of it is to really differentiate between the 2 programs so that you and I both won't be confused. Capiche? Yay. All right. How many of you, yes?
Quick question. So I know you said earlier I would do 1 makeup for the units. So it's changed since you sent out the...
Did I say something too?
It says 2 on here.
2? You can make up 2. Sorry. I had a brain fart. I'll edit that later. And y'all in the back row probably shouldn't say any bad words. It's got a good mic back there, so just let you know.
I'll be cursing over here. Oh my god.
All right, 2 sessions. That works. All right. Do me a favor. You're going to be spending a lot of time with one another. So turn to the person on the right and turn to the person on the left and let them know your name and where you teach.
You didn't tell me where you taught, Maria.
I'm a Scorpio.
Is it like dating? Like when we're dating and they meet? Crazy.
Armando Lewis. I'm at Madison. IT specialist. Just in case you couldn't tell.
I know, I couldn't tell it.
Man, I didn't want to be like dressed like in sweats all night. I know.
I know my PE coach over there is like, has to get dressed all the time.
That's why I'm in Marshall.
You burn?
I guess I'll give a chance. Do with the lights off. Give us something?
I was at 12 on it.
That's why it's supposed to be 14 and 21 for the whole year. That's why you get 2 to 3 every journal, and by the end of the year you have 21.
I have like, I'm gonna get this certificate.
I go home every day at 7, regardless. I might as well do this and get some minutes out of it.
2 to 3 per journal. So you have 14 and 21.
3, 2, 1. Fantastic. That will be my procedure to help signal you that the conversations need to stop and we need to pay attention. And what I find is that students react well to that and adults not so much. So I would just appreciate that when we do that again, if you would pay attention to it and end your conversation so that we can move on. All right, so with show of hands, how many of you first year of teaching? Most of you. How many of you second year of teaching? And how many of you 3 or more plus years? All right, so here is the question of the day. How many of you go home and about 30 to 40 minutes after the last bell has rung, you feel like you just lost every ounce of energy? And the trapezoid muscles ache, and you're having your spouse or significant other massage your shoulders because you're tired. And you feel that? Go ahead and sign in and grab one of your. Do you feel that right there? How many of you are like, oh, I gotta get a glass of wine? All right. What you're experiencing is not uncommon. And what we know, and what I'm going to explain many times over, is that you're experiencing what we call the fight-flight reflex. Every time somebody interrupts you in your class, good or bad, but gets you off track, it's a slight confrontation. And sometimes you even have minor and major confrontations, right? You're working with this group over here, and what's happening way over there?
They're distracted.
They're what? They're yakking, right? And so what do?
You going.
We might walk over there. Today would be really difficult. But check this out. Most of you manage your classroom the way your parents raised you. I told you to be quiet. If I hear it one more time, now what am I doing?
Distracting everybody.
Not nagging, and nagging. Does it work? It works the first week, especially in 3rd grade, where they start crying. And you're a junior high kid going, ooh, this is going to be fun. Right? And we have a tendency, seriously, to manage our classroom the way we were raised. How many of you are parents? How many of you noticed that when you became a parent, the way you managed your classroom changed? You learned that as a parent, you know what, I can pay pretty hard on my kid. They still love me. They still get up in the morning for me. And things are good. And I can have high expectations for my kid and they love me. Wonder if that'll work with my students. And lo and behold, it doesn't. Because what do we go back to doing? Nag, nag, nag. All right. So we're going to work through a lot of this, and I'm going to tell you that this is a 10-session course on purpose. It would have been great to bring you all in July and do this in 3 days, right? Especially since some of you are going, man, I needed this last week, last month. I get it. But here's what we found out, or at least what I found out through my data, okay? If I give it to you in 3 days, you have a tendency to take only about 10% of it, which you can remember, and you use it, and it works for a while, and then it begins to fade away as you begin to lose enthusiasm. Okay? What we're going to do is throw out these sessions a little at a time, And when you come back, I'm going to repeat what we just talked about, and you're going to do some things in here that you're never ever going to do anywhere else. I promise to make you feel uncomfortable. All right? But we're going to practice what I'm trying to teach you so that you can own it. And each session builds upon the next. All right? It's a whole system, and it only works if all of it is being used. All right? And I will tell you, I'll make a promise. Are you ready? Here's my promise. I promise you that after about the third session, we can eliminate 75 to 80% of the problems in your class right now. Okay? Because most of it is easy, low-hanging fruit. We really can help with about 70% of your problems in the first 3 sessions. And then after that, we'll start working on getting the rest of it. Our goal is 100% compliance 100% of the time. Have you walked into a classroom? How many of you substitute taught before? Could you walk into, a lot of you. All right, so you sub a class and you walk in. Can you tell whether the teacher's got it together or not?
Yes.
Instantly, right? Their classroom management works even for the substitute. Now, many of you raised your hand, your first-year teachers, and you had probably awesome master teachers, and when they walked out of the room, things were still copacetic, right? Things were good, because it was their management that you were using. Now we take that theory and put it into practice, and is it a struggle? It is. All right, let's see if we can figure that out. Okay, tonight we're going to gain the fundamental skills of positive classroom management that lowers the stress level of teachers and raises students' achievement. We don't want you to go home with that adrenaline rush wearing off and having a wreck on 41. That's not going to work for us. Okay? We want to make sure that your stress level comes down. Why? We don't pay you enough for the kind of stress you're dealing with. Right? Somebody was telling me, don't worry about this because I don't make no money. I'm a teacher. You don't get paid enough to deal with this kind of stress. So let's see if we can lower it. And by the way, when the stress is lower, are you going to enjoy what you're doing more? Absolutely. All right. And of course, we want your student scores to come up. So tonight, we're going to look at the overview of the tools for teaching, exploiting proximity, including working the crowd, and arranging the room. How many of you got a chance to buy the book online? Okay. Now, somebody asked me if we needed a computer, and it dawned on me. In the past, as I was explaining, I have purchased books for everybody. And when I went online, they don't make this edition anymore. And the edition they do make is edition 3, and it's $30. And I went, times 50 students, plus some extras, plus shipping. I couldn't justify spending $1,700. Okay, let's try this. Let's have everybody buy the digital book. So, somebody asked me, do you need computers? And now it's dawning on me. The answer is yes, if you have the book on your computer. Okay? If you have it on your phone, perfect. If you have it on your iPad or your mini iPad or your Google tablet or your Kindle Fire, what else is up there? Or you found somebody that gave you a book, perfect. All right? But you will need it. And here's what I want to do. Tonight will be different, but from here on going forward, I don't want it to be a lecture for an hour and a half. I mean, y'all get bored. I think I'm entertaining, but reality says that we've got about 15 minutes and then you're done. But I also know that you're only going to retain about 5 or 10% of what I tell you. Okay? So going forward, I'm going to have to assign you reading before you come to class. So I need you to read before you come so that we can discuss it and work it and practice it when you get here. It's kind of like that flipped classroom concept. You've heard about that? I want you to do the homework before you get here so that we can practice it in class. All right. You're going to understand working the crowd, zones of proximity, and know how to arrange your room. Okay. Do me a favor, on the back of your agenda, write a list of your current classroom rules.
We're not supposed to have no equals. Really? I'm gonna do this?
How many of you wrote the word respect?
Yep.
And then you have a branch off of that. I would bet that if you compared notes, and I'm going to have you do it in a moment, that most of your rules are very similar. Okay? Do me a favor and share with 3 or 4 people kind of around you what your top rule is.
I guess be respectful to one another. Don't embarrass
I think the best one for me is just give effort and try to learn. It's very similar to yours. We teach at the same school, so you know the type of kids that I deal. Just give effort and also respect one another. And that's the biggest thing for us teachers. It's too hard. I don't know how to do this. So just try and respect one another. And then like the big ones for me, it's like no restroom, no water.
I didn't make that one.
3, 2, 1. All right. Let me tell you that I'm not your evaluator. If I come and observe you, I don't snitch you out. And I'm not here to get you in trouble. I'm here to help you out. So let me be real with you for a moment. Okay? Here's the reality of the situation. The standards in your room are whatever you let the students get away with. The standards in any classroom are defined by whatever the students can get away with. Here's what we know. Let me tell you from the dark side, I mean the administrative side. We can observe your students in another class, because by and large, at the secondary level, we have them in cohorts, even though we didn't need to do that. Right? At the high school level, if you are taking Algebra 1, you're also taking biology, correct? You kind of group together. If you're taking honors English, that groups you together. Go ahead and sign in and grab one of everything. Elementary, do we still deploy for reading and math? Some do, some don't. Okay. If I take your students and I go and watch with another teacher and they're behaving for them and not for you, what changed? All right, that's the bad news, y'all. It's on you. Okay? And in fact, we know this, that if you're sending students to the office, it's very expensive. That's what Fred Jones would say. It's very expensive. What do we mean by that? Well, have you ever heard, I told you parent like you manage like your parents. Has your mom ever said this to you with the hands on the hips, because they got the body language? Wait till your father gets home. And they have the head shake too, right? And they use your whole name. It's not just, not Stephen. It's Stephen Ross, wait till your father gets home. Oh, Lord. But what did mom just tell me? Until mom gets home, what do I get to do? I get to goof off. Now when dad gets home, whoo, I'm going to pay the price. My dad had a fraternity paddle. You knew how to use it. In fact, one time I thought I would outsmart the old man, and he said, son, go to your room. And so I put on 7 pair of underwear, put my pants back on. Bend over, son. Okay. I sounded like a pillow. Take your britches down, boy. He's from Oklahoma. Take your britches down. No, Daddy. Now. Oh, so then what I did was put my hand back there. Right? No, Daddy. Schmack. Ow. And then the paddle again. Yow. Right? Okay. Now we don't get to do that at school anymore, though, huh? Okay. So, when you send a student out of the classroom, what does that require first of you?
You have to stop.
You have to stop what you're doing. You have to write a note or referral. At secondary, what do you have to do? Call security or the vice principal or somebody. Elementary, can you just send a kid to the office by themselves? So what do you have to do? Find somebody to cover your class or come over and take the students. And all right, now let's imagine that they have, how much time have we just wasted in class? At least 10 minutes. And junior high, what's going on while you're doing all this? What are the rest of the kids doing? And they're right, and they might even be defending the students, right? And now all of a sudden it's 38-1. Now what happens to your fight-flight reflex? It's kicked into high gear. And when you're in your fight-flight reflex mode, not only is adrenaline pumping through your body, but thinking that used to be centered here in the neocortex has now slipped to the brainstem. How many of you have ever had a job interview or an argument where 2 hours later you went, oh, I wish I would have said?
Yeah.
All right. So now think about this. 38 kids have just got you to switch your brain from the neocortex down to the brainstem, and you're reacting, and they own you, right? And you're like lost, and now you're frustrated, and later that night you start crying. That's just, even guys, I ain't gonna cry, man. What are you talking about? I ain't gonna cry. Yeah, man, it happens, right? You're either gonna cry or hit the bottle. Come on now.
The bottom.
All right. But we're not finished yet. What happens to this student who's in your class? You kick them out. Now where are they?
Unsupervised. The office.
Or quasi-supervised. They're sitting next to the what?
Secretary.
Administrative assistant. Is she, by the way, a credentialed teacher? Does she know anything about classroom management? All right, so let's call him Larry. Larry's sitting next to the administrative assistant. Next to who is probably sitting next to him? 3 other knuckleheads from 3 other classes. And what are those 4 kids doing? Messing around. They're messing around, disturbing the office. Secretary's getting all upset. All right. And finally, the administrator, vice principal, who, by the way, unbeknownst to you, was just out on the other side of campus because they found marijuana in the bathroom. Comes in and now sits with Larry. Now, this is the 4th time you sent Larry to the office, and what is it? The conversation goes something like this. Larry, what'd you do this time? I was getting up, trying to sharpen my pencil, and she got mad at me and kicked me out of class. Well, can you behave in her class? Yeah, all right, go back to class. Larry comes back to class an hour later. How do you feel about that?
We don't like it.
It feels like what? You're not getting support by the administration, is it? That's what it feels like. Is that the truth? I will tell you that nationwide, not just statewide, not just in our county, not just in our district, nationwide, there is a movement in education to eliminate on-campus suspension and off-campus suspension for what we call disruptions. That's why we're seeing the movement of time to teach come in. We're also seeing a movement with restorative justice, if you've heard of those 2 things, all in an effort to stem the tide of suspension and expulsion. And do you know the facts? Who gets suspended and exposed? Thank you. Most frequently, is it the white kid or the black kid? Black kids are 3 times more likely to be suspended and expelled than a white child. Why? I don't have the answer for that. But there is a movement around our nation to figure out how we can take care of it in the classroom. Okay. If you get a chance to read your book, it'll tell you that we squander time in class. How many of us have 5 or 7 minutes after the bell each day or period in which we're doing housekeeping and there's nothing really going on educationally? All right, 5 minutes. How many of you are secondary? You have 5 classes, yes? Except for mineral you all block schedule, but then okay. That's 5 classes times 5 minutes. How much time is that per day? Do the math. 25 minutes. All right, here we go. And now it's on 5 days. How many? Come on now. 125 minutes a week. That's a little over 2 hours that we're wasting. Part of it is that we don't have tight procedures. We're going to talk about that. Okay? Do kids are they motivated to work? what I found, and this is my 7th year of doing this, and I love hanging out with new teachers. But one of the things I found out is that y'all, by the way, that's chow chilla for everybody. Y'all are smarter than me. All right? Some of you graduated magna cum laude. Some of you graduated cum laude. And you all are overachievers. I graduated praise the laude. I was a goof off. That was my whole motivation. And you know what we find is some of our brightest kids are our most troublemaker class clowns in the classroom. Why? They did the thing in 5 minutes, everyone else is still working on it. What are they going to do for the next 15 minutes? Entertain themselves and the kids around them and cause you all kinds of grief, right? If you don't know it yet, most, and I'm going to say 90% of your students are motivated by goofing off. They want to goof off more than anything else. And if they can get away with it, they will. How many of you had this? A college professor in a smaller class that if you could distract them and get them talking about something else, they would go off a cliff. Right? And you thought that was so much fun until it came to finals. You're like, he didn't talk about that. Hello, you distracted him. All right. Your kids are doing the same thing to you. All right. And have you gotten angry or upset in your class yet? And you tried to hide it. Yeah. Right? Let me give you another clue. For whatever reason, as adults, we tend to lose it, the ability, but kindergarten kids, 3rd grade kids, even junior high kids are the best crap detectors in the world. They can read your body language better than the psychologist at UC Merced. I don't know what it is. But they remember that one of my favorite movies is Arnold Schwarzenegger, where he's the kindergarten teacher, right? And I've got a headache. Maybe it's a tumor. It's not a tumor. Those kids, that was accurate. Could read his big hulking man. It should scare the bejeepers out of anybody. Does not scare kindergarten kids. They read him and they know he is afraid of them. And they don't really know that, they can't articulate it, but they sure know how to push his buttons, right? Do your kids know how to push your buttons? Absolutely. Because they're motivated by goofing off. I want to dispel a myth for you tonight that you don't believe, but you will find to be true. Most of you, when you went to school, maybe not you, most of you, when you went to school, were motivated by getting great grades. Not good grades, but great grades. Most of you loved going to school. That's why you wanted to be a teacher, because you enjoyed it so much. But the rest of us, not so much. Okay? We want to goof off. We're not motivated by grades. Johnny, if you fix this, you'll get a better grade. Huh? Oh well. Yeah. It wasn't until my dad said this to me that my grades went from C- to B+. He said, Steve, yes, I was 15. You want to drive? Yes, Dad, I want to drive more than anything. Man, back in the day, I know I'm old, and kids today don't seem to want to drive, but back in the day, having a driver's license meant independence. And my dad was pretty trustworthy. He'd let me go and come when I wanted. You want to drive straight? Heck yeah, B average. Huh. Amazing how fast my grades went up. I didn't care about grades before that. But at the time, we gave a discount for students that had a B average on their driver's insurance. And that was important enough to my dad to make it a reality for me. Okay? All right. We have to figure out how to motivate our students. I'm going to tell you how to do that down the road. Okay? And we're going to talk a lot about nagging. All right. I want you to think about, and there's a white paper in your room, in your packet tonight, that says classroom structure. Please get it out. Classroom structure. And I want you to draw your current configuration of your classroom. I don't need a seating chart. I just need, where's the desks? Where's your desk? Where's the whiteboard? Promethean board? Where's the door? Where's the bookcases? That sort of thing.
Oh, this one's take up the whole page.
What do you have? No room?
If I want something for so all they have to do is row 1, 30 to 29 and then group because if I know when she's doing it.
You have 2 teachers now?
This is where my laptop is and stuff.
I had to take the wires, because the wires were like right here, and they were all the way over here. No, like right here. So I had to take them down.
That's why I have that desk there because I stuffed everything on the desk.
But I didn't want it against the wall. I wanted it forward so that I can be behind it. Because I have my lady side and my lady book projector. So I'm behind you, messing with it. I have my books there.
Did you get a tablet?
No. Oh, you need that little tablet that we can write on the...
No, like an iPad.
No.
So you got iPad so we can, from the back of it, project. Like I could be on my iPad and move this stuff on the board on the iPad.
No, I mean like, you know, like a projector. But it's
I
not a
understand.
projector.
All right, while you're thinking about that, let me explain that
And those are doors.
the profile of this system is, and what we want to have is instruction, discipline, and motivation. We want to help, and this is the age-old question, especially as students get into the upper grades, starting in about about 6th grade. Students lose their motivation, right? And we actually see our standardized test scores take a nosedive as they get into junior high school. How do we motivate students? We're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about these 4 systems. And tonight we're going to talk specifically about classroom structure. But we're going to talk about classroom structure, limit setting, responsibility training, and the backup system. And Fred Jones will tell you that the way that your classroom is structured and how you move around the room makes a humongous difference. We're going to learn about limit setting, and we're going to learn how to manage our classroom without saying anything. And I'm going to teach you that it's not the student's back talk that gets a kid kicked out of class, it's a teacher's back talk that gets them kicked out of class. And we're going to learn how to keep our mouth quiet when a student begins to give us lip. And then we're going to train students to take responsibility for what's happening, for their own learning and for time management. And finally, we'll talk about the backup system later on through the courses. It's expensive. The backup system is sending kids to the office, and that's what we're talking about a little bit already. Okay, let's talk about zones approximation. There are 3 zones approximation, and Jones has colored them red, yellow, and green. And what he's saying, and I wish I could show you better, but usually we have our tables in groups and I can walk around, so this will be difficult. But imagine for a moment that in the first 6-8 feet of wherever you happen to be is the red zone. I don't know if you saw as I walked over here, but their physical demeanor of our teachers right here changed. In fact, some even sat up a little straighter. This is the red zone. And when students are in the red zone, they know they can't get away with anything. Right? They don't even try. Because they know the teacher's right there. Let's get them back on track. Okay, a little farther away from now, this is the red zone, is our yellow zone. What happens in the yellow zone? So here in the yellow zone, the students are like this. They're checking out the teacher. Is the teacher looking at me? No. And when the teacher's not looking at me, then I have permission to do what? Goof off. All right, y'all are in the green zone over here. I don't even know what's happening over here. So what are you guys doing? You are doing whatever you want. In fact, we tell students, I know you're looking at your cell phone. No, I'm not. Nobody looks at their crotch and laughs. Come on now. We know that you're playing with a cell phone. Put it away. All right. We want to make sure that you can work the room just like a comedian would work the room. And how do you do that? You got to move. Okay, so some of you have a system where you're giving 6, 8, 10, I hope it's not more than that, minutes of direct instruction. And you're up here because that's where the computer is. Okay, how can we fix this? How can we get you away from the computer? What are some ideas? All right, so we can use a clicker. Okay, so I'm using a PowerPoint today. Did you know that it'll also work with Promethean board? You can actually change the slide. What else can work?
I don't know what it's called, but it's
The slate?
Yeah.
The slate. That'll work. Where's my minarets? Do y'all have something?
I have a mouse pad. I have an Apple mouse pad.
A wireless mouse. Okay, good. What else? An iPad. A what? An air server. Okay. If worse comes to worse, could you actually physically move a student you know that you can trust to push the button? Right?
That's what called movie prep.
There you go. Movie prep. Is that an app?
No, it's not kidding.
Your kid's
It's his job.
His job is movie prep. Fantastic. We can come to jobs. I want to hear more about that. Okay. So what if I don't have to stand up here anymore? What does that allow me to do? It allows me to work the crowd. Now, feel the difference. As I walk around, do you feel like, oh gosh, I better pay attention? Can I still teach? Yes. Now, how long should I allow a group to stay in the green zone? Not long. Your goal is to move around so that the lights are changing quickly. Right? It makes sense? What else can I do while I'm walking around? All right, so you're taking, you got to keep your feet in that side. I want to get you here. All right, so what can I do? Can I do a quick check for understanding? Yes. Absolutely. I can check out if he's working, first of all, and second, is it accurate? All right, looks good, right? I can keep walking. I can check things out. What if the junior high girls are passing notes? I can camp out here for a second or two, right? And then what about the kids playing with their hat or their water bottle? Right? So I'm going to pick on you for just a second. All right, so I'm teaching the class. We're talking about the zones. Now, if I challenge a kid face to face in the classroom, what's going to happen? There's going to be an argument, right? And I will tell you right now that a kid does not want to lose an argument in front of his peers. Is there a nonverbal way that I could get this man's hat? So we want to keep talking about the zones, right? Thank you. We want to keep talking about the zones. All right, so now, look at your seating chart. And then, in chapter 3, 4, and I don't know if the pages work on the book or not, but there are examples of different room arrangements. Does anyone have the electronic book? Do you find what I'm looking at? It's in chapter 4. Mine says page 42, 43. If you have the book, page 42, 43.
What chapter is that again?
4. Does it have page number? That doesn't work. Alright. So in your electronic books, we're looking at arranging the room. Oops. Yeah, there you go. There it is. And I want you to look at your room. Can you quickly walk your room? And if you need some ideas on how to arrange it, take a look at your book. I want you to actually write it on the back of your classroom setup, structure form tonight. Take a look at your room arrangement. Can you walk it quickly and change the zone in comparison to what it says in the book?
Because I had to take it when I was here. Because my mom was here. And I stood behind one of the doors and I was like, I can't see anything. Why didn't you tell me anything? So I had to shut them. But now
Who arranged your room before you got there this summer?
nobody.
No one.
The janitors did.
Oh.
I wouldn't call that, they left everything piled and dressed on top of each other.
They knew you were coming in. Alright, so does a janitor set the room up in a way that makes sense for turning red, green, and yellow zones, or for cleaning the room? Come on now, let's make it an academic purpose. Take a look at your setup and see if you can redesign it in such a way that you could easily walk your room.
My own calendar. I know. But that every portable that I have is probably half of the room over there.
I was looking at it and I'm like, when I was over there, it was huge. It was so pushed back. It would have made it the same width. But the length was too much.
Can you give me a highlighter and a
I think even one, 4 and 5. But if
And then there's options left, but they're like stuck to the wall. And I was looking at them like, but then it's like on the I had jars. I had 5 of these stuff around me. Okay, 5. I came back the next day, I had 2. I asked my kids, come here after school, what eat it? Did they get them on my desk? Yes. Did they tell us to no? So I go on my board, stay away from my desk, don't touch me. And guess what? No kids. And you see this
Yeah, because they have doors, so I'm like, I don't know how I am with what? They can face the wall? It fell off the wall? Yeah, I fell off the wall and he was like, I got neutered and like I have to go back and I get antibiotics. You didn't even notice.
And it's so expensive.
3, 2, 1. All right, so let me mention some problems that I've seen in the past. Since I haven't been in most of your rooms yet, I'm not specifically talking about anybody in the room, but I will tell you that I was working with a teacher who was really struggling with classroom management, and he had his desks in rows. And it was in high school, and kids being kids, kind of like, you know, the cool kids want to sit farther back away from the teacher as possible. Like, I don't know, it's still that same way in the bus, right? You know, you get an elementary school on the bus at 6th grade, 5th grade, 4th grade on the rows, they segregate themselves, don't they? Well, these high school kids figured out that the farther back they got, the more they got to goof off. Pretty soon, the rows were touching the back of the wall. All right? Now, it was a portable like this, okay? And all of the portables have, what kind of a finish on them? This is actually wallpaper. All right, so now if I get a little hole in my wallpaper, what am I going to do to that little hole? Well, of course I am. And I'm going to rip a little flap off, and I'm going to put my little whatever, whoop-de-whoop, and then I'm going to cover it up, and hope no one sees it. And I've left my mark and my legacy in that classroom forever. Am I paying attention to the teacher? No. I don't know why boys have to draw genitalia all over the place. I get it. I'm a boy, I get it, but I still don't understand it. I don't know. But there it is. Okay? All right, so could the teacher walk the room? No, you walk down this side, get this problem straightened out, and then there'd be a problem over here, so he'd walk down the aisle, walk over, walk down the aisle, and of course he didn't really get it when I tried to talk to him about my management strategies, and what would he do? If I have to tell you again, right? What's he doing? Nag, nag, nag. That doesn't work. Works for a few seconds and that's it. Because while he's nagging over here, what's going on over there? Now he's got to walk back out the aisle, walk over here, back over here, nag, nag, nag. What's going on over there? All right. And it got to the point that the teacher was so frustrated that he would just teach over everybody. So the class was talking, and he just kept on teaching, figuring that there were 3 or 4 kids that really cared and no one else did, and I'm just going to let them burn. Do you think that this man went home happy every day?
No.
Satisfied with his work? All right, let me give you an axiom. You won't find this written down anywhere, but it's Steve Thornton's proverb. Are you ready?
Okay.
There are two kinds of people in this world. Those that look through a window and those that look in a mirror. The ones that look through a window say it's the kid's fault. You know these kids these days. You've heard that in a lunchroom if you go talk to a 30-year veteran. It's the curriculum. I wish I could go back to EDI or whatever. It's the principal. She doesn't like me, so she put all the bad kids in my class. I have too many ELs. I have too many SPEDs. I have too many kids. Actually, if it wasn't for the kids, I'd have a pretty good career. Person in the mirror says, what is it about my instructional environment that allows kids to get up when they want to? Why is it that my students don't work bell to bell? What can I change about my lesson plans to make sure that they're starting when the bell rings and work all the way through? Do you hear the difference between the window and the mirror? I guarantee you that if you're a person that's going to be willing to look in the mirror, and I promise you that it won't always be easy, but I will promise this, that if you're willing to work in the mirror, you will make positive changes in your classroom and be a better teacher for it. But if you're here tonight to get units and look through the window and blame everyone else, then what you're going to hear from now in the next 9 sessions is blah, 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 blah. Kind of like the Snoopy. All right? Okay. I challenge you tonight to think about looking in the mirror and saying to yourself, what can I change about my instructional environment and my instructional delivery that will make an impact on what's happening in the classroom for both me and my students. And the first is looking at the zones of approximation, red, yellow, and green. Would you find something that works for you? Do you have some ideas about, anyone have changes they're going to make tomorrow now based on what we talked about tonight? Friday, all right. Restaurant, well, I don't know. Hey, I'm telling you, experiment, okay? And can you put painter's tape on the carpet?
Yes.
Or dots on the carpet?
Yes.
Yes. So if you have a group of students that like to have their desks migrate, you can look and say, oh, heck no, back to the blue line, let's go right now. And boom, they go back. Or if you have one setup for one kind of class instruction and you want them to be 4x4 instead of 6x6, can you say, all right, everybody move to the yellow dots. You have 10 seconds, go. Move to the yellow dots, all right, let's continue. And now you're in 4x4 or 6x6, whatever the case may be. How many of you have immovable objects in your classroom? Okay, what do you have?
I have lab desks.
And we have a chemistry. How many of you Madera High School? Any Madera High School people? If you've been in their chemistry lab, have you been in the chemistry? Isn't it close to here? They have the same problem with the desks and the gas and the whole 9 yards. And there's not a whole lot of movement going on. All right, but can you walk your room?
Yeah, I think I have it set up where I can do it
Good.
pretty well.
How many of you have? We're talking about electronics against the wall, and that's causing a problem. All right. Is there IT people that you can talk to about changing it if you need to? We've even had, I was talking to a high school teacher who said that the Promethean board was on the wrong side of the room for them, and they got to change to another side of the room. Okay? Is anything really that permanent in your room that can't be changed? If you can make a case and you get your administrator on your side, you can change just about anything except for lab desks. Those don't move. All right. Okay. Questions?
Well, you know, you're supposed to technically move your kids around every 6 weeks. And the first couple of weeks of school, I just moved them 3 times in 2 weeks because nothing was working. How long do you suggest to leave them in a seating arrangement?
I don't know that there's a formula that says you have to keep it this way or change it that way. I think that if it's working and your students are producing, yes. But let's talk about some other things that go with that. Sometimes we've heard, well, you can earn your way to sitting in the front row. And yet, that student's IEP says that he must sit in the back row. What if you just done, if you announced to the class, you could earn the right to sit in the privileged seat. But the IEP says they have to sit in the back. And you've announced that to class, what have you just done?
You've alienated him.
You've just discriminated against that student, right? So be careful about your seating policies. Should you have a seating chart, yes or no?
Yes.
Say it again?
Yes.
Yes. All right, I gotta tell you that when I was new, and I was a high school guy, I was trying to be the cool cat, and everyone likes me, and I sit where you want to sit. Error. Why? I just abdicated my authority to the students. I just said, you're in charge. Big, huge mistake. Even if on the first day, if I have an alpha order and I figure it out later and change that, fine. Or I have a boy, girl, or from high to low, or whatever system I've come up with day one, I'm going to make sure that I'm in charge of the seating arrangement. Okay? And I'm going to strategically place students based on what? Data. Okay? So I know I have an EL student and I need to pair them up with somebody that can help them. Great. I will tell you that the best thing that ever happened for my son was in his biology class. My son is Asperger's. He came to class, and my son loves to listen and can hear and learn. Most of us forget everything that we hear, not him. He absorbed it like a sponge. But to get him to write it was horrendously difficult. And I can remember in 4th and 5th and 6th grade, 20-minute assignment taking 2 hours and always ending in crying. Okay? So he's a freshman in high school, and biology teacher's kind of getting to know Josh and begins to understand Josh is pretty bright and has a real problem getting it from his head to his hand. Finds another student who had a real hard time listening and absorbing knowledge, but she could write for days. So he paired him up. And he said, all right, Josh, you're going to tutor her. You're going to put your name on one paper. Both of you put your name on the same homework paper, on the same worksheet, on the same assignment. Okay? Joshua, you tell her what to write, and she's going to write it. Then they had separate assessments. So when it came time for the test, they both had to do their own thing. And usually it was a multiple choice test, so Josh was okay with that. And they both, without lowering the standards, so we call that an accommodation, not a modification, they both ended up with B's in the class. Okay? And both felt like rock stars. She got to do something to help somebody, and she learned the material, and Josh felt like, oh man, this is awesome. I get to talk in class. I don't have to write, and I get to be the tutor for her. And so your seating chart really does matter. Okay? Do you have a like a timeout place or a time to teach has a refocus area in your classroom? Something to think about. Okay, and in time to teach, there's the idea that they give a little warning. Here's your oral warning. When you come back and said, all right, I warned you once, and now I need you to go to the refocus table. Here's your paper. And they go and take care of that. And then if that doesn't work the third time, okay, you have lunch detention. Okay? You know, I'm sorry, I've given you a warning, you've gone to the focus table, I've given you a lunch table, and lunch detention, that's not working, so now I'm going to have to send you to the office. Now when I send somebody to the office and I've already told them that I did an oral warning and a refocus and a lunch detention and it didn't work, is the principal going to go, oh, we have a problem here, right? Versus, I lost it, and the first thing we did was send him out of class. If you're writing a bunch of referrals, what does that say to your administrator? You have no classroom management. Okay? I was teaching freshman high school, English at Madera High School, and I had a girl just go off. F you, Mr. T, I'm not going to do this, and you know, boop, beep, 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 beep. So I wrote it down. Wrote a referral, just happened to be at the end of class, and I walked to the office. The administrative assistant looked up and said, what did you do, child? What do you mean? Mr. Thornton never writes referrals. You must have really did something today. What did you do? 5-day suspension. okay? Because I was able to handle it in class most of the time. When the occasion that I needed it, it was there. And I didn't feel like you have said today, the administration didn't support me and back me up. They knew that I already had tried everything in my bag of tricks to help the student collect herself and do what you need to do before it got to where it got. And this was so over the line that it was obvious. All right. How many of you have written a referral so far? All right. How many do more than one? Not just for tardies. Okay, we're going to see if we can fix that. All right.
Does blood count?
Does blood count?
Bleeding and punching and blood?
Whoa! Yeah, that would be, let's see if we can fix that too. All right. In your, you know what I didn't do is evaluation.
They do that in oh my god, it was getting
In your homework, there is focus questions that we'd like you to do before next time. And I think our next meeting is in a month, yes? Okay. Focus questions. Tell me how you've rearranged your classroom. And I want you to read, in addition to chapters 16 and 17, I need you to read chapters 1 through 4, tonight's talk. Okay? So, chapters 1 through 4, and 16 and 17. And it's an easy read. He writes like at a 6th grade level. You'll like how he writes. And he's funny. All right?